3 months ago, I was running a six-figure Etsy shop, and then I closed it. Yep, I shut down a store that was making over 6 figures a year for the past 3 years. Today, I want to share why I walked away from Etsy, the lessons I learned, and how I moved my business over to Shopify, who, by some insane stroke of luck for me, are actually sponsoring this video, which I will get into a little bit later. If you're new here and you've never seen any of my videos before, my name's Han. I'm an embroidery artist and small business owner. I started my Etsy store back in 2019 when I was working full-time as a nanny. I would embroider bits and pieces during nap times, then post them on Etsy as a kind of side hustle and just pray that something would sell. Within a couple of years, my store grew exponentially. I started specializing in shoe embroidery, which resulted in thousands of sales, dream customers, and even some viral moments on social media. Etsy was an amazing launchpad for my small business until it wasn't. Here's what changed for me. One of my least favorite things about Etsy is how they advertise other sellers on your product pages. For example, a customer could click on one of my listings, scroll down just a little, maybe to read some of the description, and right there on my product listing page would be other competitors' products that the Etsy algorithm found similar to my product. A lot of the times, these products would be cheaper imitations of my products, sometimes even complete rip-offs of my designs, which I find completely unacceptable. But unfortunately, all Etsy cares about at the end of the day is the sale. Whether a customer buys from your store or a store that they are advertising on your product pages, Etsy gets paid either way from the fees that they charge both customers and sellers, which we will get into a little bit later. Imagine going to a maker's market, setting up your booth, and having people browse, shop at your little stall, and then having competitors come over, hook their arms into your customers, and take them over to their store where they are selling similar items to you, maybe even the exact same items as you, maybe even direct imitations of the items you're selling. And the event planner of this market is actually encouraging this. Wouldn't that be extremely annoying? So I know I just briefly mentioned other shops copying my designs, but truly one of the main reasons I had to stop selling on Etsy was the insane amount of copycats and imitation products that other sellers were making based off of my exact listings. I was having to file upwards of 10 IP infringement reports every day. IP is somebody's intellectual property, and it's basically just a law that prevents people from stealing your photos on your listings or directly ripping off your designs and trying to pass them off as their own. It actually got to the point where a lot of sellers were using my store name in their listing titles and descriptions. So if anybody searched Han Embroiders in the search bar to try and find my Etsy store, other stores would pop up and so would their products because they were using my name in their listings. Now, as I said, Etsy does have an intellectual property system. Their takedowns are quite slow and the system is quite clunky. And what scammers have realized that they can do is just dispute any claim that you file against them, because the next step from there is that you, as the person who filed the claim, has to seek out legal representation to take it any further, which is an extremely costly and lengthy process. I personally don't have time to do that for the 10 IP infringement reports I was filing every single day. And if by some miracle a listing was taken down due to one of my IP reports, it was usually done weeks to months after the report was filed, which means the damage, i.e. lost sales, was already done. Etsy fees might look small on paper, 5% here, 6.5% there, but when you're selling high ticket items or you're selling a lot of items each day, it really does add up. Between transaction fees, listing fees, payment processing fees, mandatory offsite advertising fees, I was losing huge chunks of every sale. Some months it felt like Etsy was making more money from my store than I was. I've really taken issue with the mandatory offsite advertising fees. These are fees that you can't opt out of on Etsy if you're making over $10,000 a year. And what it basically means is that Etsy takes it upon themselves to run offsite ads of your products. So on Pinterest, Google, social media, if someone is scrolling and they see an ad of one of your products that Etsy has paid to run, and they click on that ad and then they end up making a purchase on Etsy, you as the seller are going to be charged a 20% flat fee of whatever it is that customer purchased. And again, you can't opt out of this if you are making over $10,000 a year on Etsy. This might not seem like a huge deal until you make a $300 sale and Etsy automatically snaps up $60 of that. That is a huge percent of my profit margin for an ad that I'm not even personally running. And when things went wrong on Etsy, support was not so great. I once had a customer almost successfully scam me out of $400. They were unhappy and unaware that they may have to pay a customs fee when their order arrived in their country. Instead of paying this customs fee, they waited 20 days before contacting Etsy customer support and claiming that their order was lost in the mail. Their order was in fact not lost in the mail, and this could have been found out by simply checking the tracking on said order. However, the Etsy customer support agent awarded this customer a full refund within 5 minutes of this customer opening a claim on Etsy. After this customer was rewarded a full refund, she did go ahead and pay the customs fee. So essentially, she received a free pair of shoes by scamming the system and receiving customer support from Etsy, which was less than satisfactory in my opinion. After hours on the phone with customer service, I did manage to get this decision reversed, and this customer was subsequently banned from using Etsy for life. However, this was a very large chunk of money for the Etsy support agent to just refund and take from my account, especially during the holiday season. Hours and hours on the phone and several emails later, I got the money back, but that's not really the point. It should never have been taken from my account. Unfortunately, you hear stories like this from Etsy sellers all the time. Etsy constantly sides with buyers, even when the buyer is in the wrong. And I've worked in retail, I know that the customer is always right. However, Etsy is supposed to be a marketplace where artists and small businesses sell their wares. I think this should be taken into account more by the customer support at Etsy. When you're constantly refunding orders and not looking into the facts of a situation, you could be the reason why a really small scale maker can't pay the rent this month. It really is that serious. Etsy used to feel like a curated marketplace for handmade goods. However, now it's flooded with mass-produced items and dropshippers. Personally, I don't want my handcrafted goods that I spend hours, sometimes even days creating, to be sold right next to other items that somebody ordered in bulk from AliExpress. I really wanted more control over how my products were presented and how my customers experienced my brand. At some point, I realized I was paying premium rent for a space I didn't even control. Between the fees, the copycats, the unpredictable policy changes, Etsy stopped feeling like a partner and more like an overlord. So I made the scary decision to close my 6-figure shop. But closing my Etsy store didn't mean closing my business altogether. I still wanted to create and sell my hand-embroidered goods. I just needed a platform that let me own my brand. That's when I fully transitioned my store over to Shopify. Now, believe me, I know exactly what you guys are thinking. A video about why I no longer use a different marketplace and why I recommend you use this marketplace that's sponsoring this video. When I tell you this was like divine intervention if I've ever seen it, I scripted and filmed this video about 2 months ago, which was about a month after I fully transitioned my store over to Shopify. And after I filmed this video for the first time, I realized my camera was completely out of focus for the entire video. So as I was getting ready to refilm this video, I got a call from my agent Josh, and he asked me how I would feel about partnering with Shopify on some upcoming content, and I said, "You have to be kidding me." I explained to him that I had this video plan and that I'd actually already filmed it once, and it was like a match made in heaven. I couldn't believe Shopify was going to be sponsoring a video where I was talking so much about Shopify. So yeah, kind of crazy, but let me tell you some of the reasons that I absolutely love using Shopify.
Shopify is a powerful set of tools that helps you start and manage your business, whether online or in person. It's designed to make life easier for entrepreneurs, from beginners to big brands, by providing tools that simplify selling.
Shopify gives me my own storefront, no competing ads on my product pages, no surprise fee hikes, and I keep direct relationships with my customers. Their tools make it easy to design a beautiful store, track inventory, and handle payments. And the fees are predictable, perfect for high-ticket handmade items like mine. I recently moved from the US to the Netherlands, so my life has been a little bit crazy, a little bit stressful. One thing though that has not been stressful at all is maintaining my Shopify store during all of this craziness of this international move. Their interface is really user-friendly, even for a tech dinosaur like me. Technology is not always my friend, but I've never had an issue with Shopify. If you're thinking about starting your own store or making a leap from another online marketplace, I highly recommend Shopify. You can actually start a free trial by using my link in the description below. Thank you again to Shopify for sponsoring this video. I can't even believe that I'm saying that. This was truly so unexpected, but I could not have had a better sponsor for this video. So here's a quick comparison of Shopify and Etsy, just to compress a couple of key points together. Etsy comes with built-in traffic, which means they push customers who are already shopping on their platform to your listings without you having to do too much legwork, but the fees are high and you have a very small amount of control over your shop. With Shopify, you do have to bring more of the traffic traffic, whether that be from paid ads, from your social media presence, but you keep way more of your products and you have more control over your brand. For me, that trade-off was absolutely worth it, especially since I was bringing upwards of 90% of my own traffic to my Etsy store when I was still selling on Etsy. Since moving my store over to Shopify, I've been able to focus more on my small business. I've been finding time to develop new designs, to improve my customer experience, and to create more content around my small business, rather than constantly fighting policies and filing IP infringement reports. My sales are steadier, my profits are higher, and I finally feel like I'm running my small business again. If you're a small business owner on Etsy right now, I'm not saying that you have to up and leave, but my advice to you would be to track your fees, diversify your income, start building an email list or a separate website entirely. This will give you some options if things do change and you do feel the need to leave Etsy. So that is why I closed my 6-figure Etsy store. It was a huge decision, but it gave me the freedom to grow my business in a way that feels right to me. If you found this video helpful, let me know in the comments, maybe leave me a like, and subscribe to my channel if you enjoy small business oriented content. I'm always more than happy to chat with you guys in the comments. If you are an Etsy seller, I would love to hear from you. Do you have any frustrations? What's keeping you there? I want to hear about it all. Again, I want to say a huge thank you to Shopify for unexpectedly sponsoring this video. Don't forget to check them out with the link in my bio if you're ready to take control of your small business journey with a free trial. Thanks again so much for watching, and I will see you guys in my next video.